The paradigms of a better employee are rules that help you increase your efficiency and improve the quality of your product. Let's look at 7 important paradigms that will help you become successful in your department. We will look at these paradigms using a designer as an example, but they are appropriate for absolutely all professions and occupations. So let's get started. The first paradigm you need to learn is to analyze the assignment before you start. This will help you determine all the resources you need to complete the assignment. For example, do you have all the links, editable documents, images, photos, text, and stock image accesses you need for the job? With this paradigm, you can avoid unexpected problems and delays in your work. The second paradigm is to complete the assignment 100%. The quality and quantity of the work must be top-notch, otherwise the supervisor will not be satisfied. In addition, a good reputation is very important, and insufficient quality of work can affect your reputation. The third paradigm is don't ignore obstacles. If you encounter a problem that prevents you from doing your job 100%, let your supervisor and all your stakeholders know. For example, if you don't turn in your work on time or you don't have access to the document, you need to let your supervisor know. The fourth paradigm is to offer solutions to the problem. Instead of reporting problems, offer your ideas and solutions to the problem. This will maintain a good relationship with the supervisor and show your professional competence. Fifth paradigm. Use facts and arguments instead of opinions. One of the important tasks of a designer is to convince the supervisor that his or her decisions are correct. However, instead of relying on your opinions, it is better to use facts and arguments. This will help convince the manager and get a better result. The sixth paradigm is don't expand on the interpretation of the assignment. This paradigm seems to go against common sense. After all, the more of your ideas and effort you put into the assignment, the better you will accomplish it, right? However, this is not always true. When you get an assignment, you should study it carefully to understand what is required to be accomplished, but you should not add your ideas and assumptions to it. Why? Because the assignment was probably worded that way for a reason. If you start making up your own variations and extending the interpretation of the assignment, you may make it more difficult to complete and even get away from the original goal. For example, you've been entrusted with creating a logo for a company. The assignment specifies certain requirements for color, shape, etc. If you start to think of some additional details, you may change the concept of the logo and make it inappropriate for the company. Therefore, it is important not to expand on the interpretation of the task and to act strictly within the framework of the task. The seventh paradigm. Disagreement with the parameters of the task is not a reason to ignore them. When you receive an assignment, it is possible that you don't like some of its parameters or requirements. But that doesn't mean you can ignore them. If you don't agree with some parameter of the assignment, you should discuss it with your supervisor and find the best solution together. For example, if you have been entrusted with creating a product sales landing page, and the manager wants to add many colorful pictures and information to the page that are not related to the product, you should discuss this point with him and explain that this may distract the user and reduce the number of sales. Together you can come up with the best solution and create a landing page that will effectively sell the product. However, it's important to understand that the decision is ultimately made by the manager, and you should respect his or her choice. So, each of these 7 paradigms is important for success. They will help you work more effectively, avoid mistakes, and establish trust with your supervisor and colleagues. Ultimately, your reputation and the quality of your work will determine your success in this profession.